Welcome to Mom Talk Radio, the show that tackles topics important to you and your family. Finances, food, education, technology, and everything in between. We've got it covered on Mom Talk. Now, here's the host of the top-rated show for moms, Maria Bailey, on Mom Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Maria Bailey, who has been doing Mom Talk Radio now for 21 years. Yes, 21 years. You know, when I first started Mom Talk Radio, I had 3 kids under the age of 20 months. And I got tired of listening to, here's how old this show is, the Purple Dinosaur in my car. And I thought, you know, there needs to be a radio show that talks about the things that matter to moms. And hence, Mom Talk Radio was born. And then it was my goal to be the first and only nationally syndicated talk show for moms. And I can say after 21 years, not that it took us 21 years to do it, but we have been on the air for 21 years talking to moms, and we're syndicated in over 55 markets across the United States. I think I pretty much reached my goal, and I couldn't have done it without all of you who are listening today. So thank you. And it's what a great ride. And I hope to continue to bring you a lot of really great stuff. The show today is brought to you by Pre-Mama. Pre-Mama is the supplement company that takes you from being a woman to being a mom, all the way from the prenatal and fertility supplements that they have, all the way to new mom and lactation. And it's not pills that you have to swallow. You actually can mix it in your drink, your water, your juice, whatever. And it's easy to swallow and got everything that you need for motherhood. Everything except for sleep. But they do have a sleep supplement so that when you can close your eyes for a few minutes, you can do it well. You know, it's hard to believe that we're in the middle of June already. I'm super excited because in only 2 weeks, knock on wood, my son returns from Afghanistan, and hopefully he will arrive safely back into the United States. His platoon or his troop has already started coming back. And I'm so happy for those families because those guys have been over there for 9 months. And hats off to all of the military families out there, whether you're the mom, the kid, the uncle, the aunt. You know, we all don't sleep a little bit at night knowing that we have a loved one overseas somewhere. So, welcome home to everyone who's coming home, and welcome home to my son, Owen. And, you know, let's not also forget, I have a daughter in the Peace Corps, and there's a lot of civilians who are serving our United States abroad. And Lord knows she is living way out in the desert of Africa. So don't forget those civilians who are also serving our country abroad. So we have a great show lined up for you. When we return, we have Debbie Reber with us. She's the author of Differently Wired.
This is Mom Talk Radio. Mom's Little Secret. Mom Talk Radio with Maria Bailey.
I am delighted to have with us the author of Differently Wired. She's Debbie Reber, and she is a New York Times best-selling author, a speaker, and the founder of Tilt Parenting, a website, podcast, and global online community for parents raising differently wired children. She has had a whole bunch of moms and dads listen to her and download her show. She's a mom herself, and I welcome her to Mom Talk Radio. So welcome, Debbie.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm delighted to have you with me because I feel like I parent one of those children who are differently wired, but I'd like to hear from you. How do you describe that child?
Yeah, I use the term differently wired to define any child who is moving through the world in a way that is neurodiverse. And that can look so many different ways. It can mean a formal diagnosis with something like a learning difference like dyslexia or dysgraphia or ADHD. It can be being on the autism spectrum, being gifted, having an anxiety disorder. So there's so many ways it can look. And actually there are also a lot of kids who don't even have a formal diagnosis, but there's some way of the way their brain operates that makes certain aspects of their life challenging to them.
You know, I love the fact that you included gifted children in there because I mentioned at the top of the show that I had 3 children in less than 20 months. And I did it through adoption and birth. And children are wired differently. I think when you adopt, you kind of anticipate that they might not be wired like you. And I found that it takes as much effort to parent a child who is gifted as it does a child who may have dyslexia, because I have another child that has severe dyslexia. So it takes as much effort. And I love the fact that you include both.
That was actually something I got a lot of feedback on when I first launched Tilt Parenting. I got emails saying, thank you so much for including us. And, you know, my son, he's now 13, is gifted. And that was the first thing that we noticed was different about him. And yeah, it is a special need in its own right, because it's not just an issue of acceleration. The way they process information and learn and feel things, it's very different from a neurotypical child.
You know what I noticed? It was, so this particular child, because I had 3 within 2 years, they kind of all operated like triplets. I would put them at a table and I would, you know, put out coloring crayons and paper and maybe some scissors and glue. But that wasn't enough for him. He always had to take it to the next level. And it was so exhausting to me, because I was like, can't you just color like the other kids? No, you know, he needed to like go get wire and, you know, string things together and create a bigger mess than everybody else. And I used to just go, oh my gosh, why can't this child just like sit and color like a quote normal child? So I love that you put that in there. So how would a mom, and at what age do you kind of get that feeling that your child might be wired differently? And what are you looking for?
Well, for a lot of the families in my community, our kids have what are called invisible differences. So it isn't so obvious as it would be with some other differences that a child might have, or a physical difference. So for a lot of us, we get these little clues, like you were just describing, a child who is maybe just more intense, or just needs more than you might expect. And a lot of these kids might be really colicky or just more intense in some way. So we tend to have little inklings here and there, but it's really when, you know, in my experience and from what I've heard from families, is it's when they start going to preschool and there are just certain aspects of whether it's their, you know, cognitive development or their way their body moves in space, their motor skills, or some other aspect, their energy is a little different than their typically developing peers might be exhibiting. And so we start getting, you know, maybe some phone calls or emails or after school pull asides like, hey, have you, we noticed this is going on. We start getting these little hints of, you know, the preschool years. And then early elementary is when a lot of us realize, okay, something's going on here.
So, Debbie, let me ask you about another situation, because I remember walking into first grade with my kids and touring a school. And I asked the teacher, I'm like, you know, they're showing you how the kids work in groups and whatever. And I said, you know, how do you teach the gifted child, and how will you treat my dyslexic child? And the response was like, oh, yeah, we really don't have time for that gifted child. We kind of just give them extra work at the back of the room. And I just cringed. So I think part of the challenge is, how do you find the school support for your differently wired child? Have you figured out that little challenge?
If I could figure out that challenge, that's the biggest issue for us, because really being a young person, especially in elementary school, middle school, it is all about school. Mm-hmm. And many of us end up homeschooling, which is what I've been doing since Asher was in third grade. But, you know, I think there's a lot of education that has to happen. In my experience, educators want to do a really good job. They don't have the tools or the resources or even the training to really understand. So there's a lot of education that has to happen. And I think as parents of differently wired kids, we're in a great position to be, to ally and partner with our kids' teachers and try to help them understand who our kids are and what they need. But unfortunately, for a lot of, some kids, it works. And then there are some public schools that pull out for gifted programs or that can pull aside for learning differences and individualize. But it's the big problem, I think, of today. What do we do with these kids who just are not thriving in a traditional system? Because I'm not okay with just trying to push them through. They deserve better than that.
Well, it seems like that's the big question. We just have 60 seconds left. Can you tell us what we would hear on your podcast and on your website?
Yeah, so I bring conversations with parent educators, thought leaders, experts, psychologists, and also peer-to-peer conversations. And my goal is to provide resources for parents like me, parents who are looking for a path and looking for ways to figure out how to bring their child up in a way that feels optimistic and hopeful, and give them some pieces of the puzzle information. So it's weekly conversations, sometimes with my son as well. We go into some issues, and it's really to inspire people and help them feel that they're not alone.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Mom Talk Radio. We have a link to everything Debbie there, and a link to your book and to your podcast and website. And we certainly appreciate you spending some of your day here on Mom Talk Radio, because it's a really big, big issue. And until you get into school, it really gets even bigger. And just wait till you get to college. It's an amazing problem, because they won't let you look at those things on the application, but they love to tell you they have the services once you get in. Thank you so much for joining us. And when we return, we're going to turn the spotlight on one mom that's doing pretty amazing things.
Mom Talk Radio, a busy mom's best friend.
I am delighted to have with us today a mom who's joining us actually from Canada. She's doing amazing things at lifebyeloise.com. Her name is Eloise, and she is the mom of a toddler and one on the way. So that means she's really busy running around pregnant, which is not an easy feat. She's a former corporate tax lawyer in the financial sector, and as a mom, she knows what it's like to have little time on her hands. So she's going to join us and talk a little bit about that. So welcome, Eloise, to Mom Talk Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm happy that you could, in your hectic life, find some time for us. So you have a new ebook out. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. Just to give you a bit of a background, when I was working as a corporate tax lawyer, I saw so many moms and parents struggle to find time for themselves and to find time to reconnect to who they were. And I come from about 20 years of experience in yoga and meditation. And it dawned on me one day that I could actually help these people out. And I said, you know what? I know what it's like to have a crazy schedule. I know what it's like to run after kids and have a dog and have a husband and a family to take care of. And I said, there's a way for me to show these people how we can take a few minutes a day and completely transform your life. So I came out with a book called The Ignition Toolbox, which is loaded with tips and tricks over the course of 4 weeks to help moms reconnect with themselves in just a few minutes a day. So whether it's while you're brushing your teeth in the morning or you're preparing lunch for your kids, you can really incorporate these tips and tricks throughout the day, and it'll help you just bring that sense of calmness that as moms we always crave, and that little bit of mindfulness throughout our day.
Yes, we are all looking for that. So are your tips and tricks, do they revolve around yoga? Because that freaks out some moms, oh my God,
absolutely.
That's just not me.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. And when you come from the corporate world, yoga is kind of a hippy-dippy thing that, you kind of don't want to get too close. No, it's actually a lot based on breathing exercises, and it's stuff that you can do while you're standing in line at Walmart getting diapers, or before you're brushing your teeth. If I can give you one example, and it's one that's really popular, and I get a lot of great feedback from, it's something called open eyes meditation, and it only takes 5 minutes. And it's a meditation you can do standing or sitting with your eyes open. And what you do is you breathe in, you inhale through your nose for 4 counts, and then you exhale for 6 counts while your eyes are still open. And you're just keeping your eyes on a focus point. It could be the car in front of you while you're sitting in traffic, or it could be staring at your reflection in the mirror while you were about to brush your teeth. And you can do that just for 5 minutes. And reconnecting with your breath and allowing yourself to just breathe will bring you a sense of calmness that you can carry out throughout your day. And this is something that I've heard moms say, you know what, something happened, with my kids at school, and I got all rattled up and I didn't know what to do. And I just paused for a few minutes while I was still sitting in my car, kept my eyes open, looked at the tree in front of me as a focus point, did a few rounds of those deep breaths, and then I was okay. And that's exactly what the Ignition Toolbox does. So it's not about standing on your head. It's not about doing all these intricate back bends. It's really about reconnecting to your breath and allowing yourself to just be calm in just a few minutes a day.
Wow, that's amazing. So real quickly, what will our listeners find when they go to your website, Life with Eloise?
Life by Eloise. So there's different things. I actually started my blog as a food blog, just as a creative outlet, and I wanted to find a way to share those recipes with my friends and my family, and then eventually with a lot more people. And obviously it needed to be toddler approved, and they're all plant-based recipes, so really healthy. And then there's the whole section of the whole lifestyle and mindfulness, and it's really geared towards moms that have no time, that, like I said, don't want to stand on their heads or do intricate poses, but do want to find a way to reconnect in just a few minutes a day and say, you know what, whatever the day brings after this, I'm calm, cool, and collected, and I can handle it.
Well,
so that's what you're going to find on Life by Eloise.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll do a little bit more breathing as we continue going into Mom Talk Radio, but thank you so much. Speaking of breathing, next up, we're going to be talking about a sleep time, and we want you to breathe when you sleep. So when we return, a little sleep time story for you.
Mom Talk Radio, a busy mom's best friend. Now, Maria Bailey on Mom Talk Radio.
I'm joined today by Meg Maguire. She's the author of Perfectly Maggie, a sleep time story. She was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and graduated from the design school at Drexel University. She has 2 grown children and lots of grandchildren, lives in Palm Coast, Florida, right up the road from me. And we're going to talk about her book and a lot more. So welcome, Meg, to Mom Talk Radio.
Oh, thank you for having me on, Marie. It's my pleasure.
So why did it take you so long to write a book? Was it that you were just too busy raising 2 kids, or did the idea just come to you?
Well, I had a whole life's journey ahead of time that went into this book, and it was never my intention to be an author, but somehow I ended up one. I went to Drexel, as you said, for design over 40 years ago, and part of my curriculum, and at the time I wasn't sure why, but you need to take 1 year of early childhood development, which I am so glad I did. Yes, I found it fascinating, and I found it could help me in any area of life, just to understand what makes people become the people they are.
And I know that one of the things that you're particularly interested in when it comes to early childhood development is the benefits of developing a healthy self-esteem at a really early age. Why is that?
Well, I learned that the self-esteem is at the very core of who we become as an adult. Experts agree that it's in place pretty much by the time you're in kindergarten. And if you have a positive self-esteem, it can act as a protective barrier against the challenges a child might face, whether it be bullying or if they have a physical ailment. Low self-esteem is most likely to make you a victim of bullying, and conversely, low self-esteem is often the inspiration for bullying. So it became a passion of mine early on, especially years down the road. My little girl was diagnosed with epilepsy as a baby.
Wow.
And the seizures were scary enough, but I knew we had proper medications, and we were quite lucky in that her seizures were easily maintained on the proper meds. But what I didn't know, and the doctors at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia informed me was self-esteem issues could pop up, that there's a stigma associated with the diagnosis that could really lower her self-esteem. So, I went to task, and I realized we were lucky in that I knew this when she was so young, and that we could come up with some kind of intervention to give her a protective shield against the stigma. So from there, I consulted a renowned pediatrician, child psychiatrist, Dr. Lydia Lenan from the University of Pennsylvania, and we came up with many helpful exercises and games to work on her self-esteem. So her favorite one is the sharing game that is scripted into the book. And
wow, that's amazing. That's so cool. That's so cool.
It was cool. It was cool. It gets even cooler as we go along. It worked so well. It truly
You know
did.
What's interesting, though, about your story is that I have a daughter who was not diagnosed with dyslexia until she was a sophomore in high school. And it was almost like once she figured out and got that diagnosis and knew, it became a relief for her, and she understood what kind of made her different and made her a target of that bullying. And it was amazing how much self-esteem that she got by knowing what was making her by that diagnosis. So it kind of was the opposite of effect of the way it happened with your family.
Yes, we got the diagnosis first and then worked on the self-esteem. And I'm so glad that worked out that way for you. And every child, all of us have something that can niche at our self-esteem. So that's how this all came about. I wanted to write a book for my grandchildren that had the same sharing game in it that I did with my daughter when she was little, and my son too. He got to benefit from this since he was there. So it really was a great thing for my kids.
So one of the things in the book is called the puppy pack. Tell me a little bit about that game. Is that the game that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's part of the game. The puppy pact itself is a commitment made between the children and their parents or loved ones or anybody that is, a figurehead to them to do every night. It's on the last page of the book, and in the book, the puppies make a pact to make time every night to tell a true tale of a deed they did right, something that's helpful, kind, or polite. And now, you and your family can do just the same. At the end of the day, you can make it a game. So it says sign your own puppy pact and have that commitment to do the sharing game. Also, by signing it, it's cute because it's a memory keepsake of when you started this evening routine with your child. And if the child can't write yet, they can take a crayon and scribble on it or something. But you date it and sign it, and it stays in the book forever.
Oh, well, that's really cool. So where can folks go to find the book?
Well, we have a site, perfectlymaggie.com, and you can click on locations, and it will give a list of specialty stores in your area. I know your area very well, and it's at Chez Jacqueline in Palm Coast. Okay. And, it also can direct you to Amazon and we're on Amazon as well.
Great. Well, we have a link to it as well on Mom Talk Radio. And congratulations, Meg, on the book. And what an inspiration you're going to be, not only for your two children, but also your grandchildren. So congratulations on that. That's really great. And thank you for being with us today on Mom Talk Radio. When we return, we've got the author of Life Falls Apart, But You Don't Have to, Mindful Methods for Staying Calm in the Midst of Chaos.
This is Mom Talk Radio.
Before we welcome our next guest, I wanted to quickly mention another sponsor, Sleep Buddy. You'll find this really great night light for children who are either in a crib and getting ready to transition to a bed, or in a bed and don't stay in the bed all night. And it's a really wonderful, easily programmable night light in blue or amber, very soothing tones. So the light stays on when your child needs to stay in bed and turns off when they can get up. So it's also doubles as a very functional night light. And Mom Talk Radio is pleased to welcome Sleep Buddy as our sponsor. Go to sleepbuddy.com and also available on Amazon.
Mom's Little Secret, Mom Talk Radio with Maria Bailey.
I am excited to have with me Julie Potiker. She is the author of this really cool book. It's called Life Falls Apart, But You Don't Have to, Mindful Methods for Staying Calm in the Midst of Chaos. And Julie, welcome to Mom Talk Radio. We were just talking about this earlier, a group of friends and I, that it doesn't matter if you have one child or 9 children. There's chaos in your life. Like, all you have to do is have that word mom in your title and there's chaos. So,
and heaven help those listeners that actually have 9 children.
Yeah, right. I actually met one this week. She's a Chick-fil-A mom panelist, and everybody in the room was like, 2, 3. Then they got over to a few of us. We had 4, and then she's like 9, and everyone was like, ooh. I know.
Exactly.
So, first of all, what qualified you to write this book? I just loved.
Well,
I say that in fondness. Okay, like
I know it did. I could tell by your tone of voice that it wasn't critical, and I want you to know that my inner critic did not flare up when you said it. So don't worry about it. What qualifies me is I walked through fire in my parenting, and I was a recovering attorney. So, I had the aptitude when I started doing mindfulness-based stress reduction, and I thought it was interesting. I had the aptitude to continue on in learning, and so I went real deep into all the neuroscience and brain science classes, and I took a series of trainings and retreats, and then I got trained to teach mindful self-compassion, which is the class that really healed me in my absolute despair and sorrow over parenting, because here I had given up this career to raise my kids, and I was really fortunate to be able to do that, to not need my second income. I'm just being completely honest. And then when I was struggling with my teenagers, I was like, geez, this is the job that I am fortunate enough to do, and they're not turning out the way I expect or intend, which is silly to think. Which is silly to think that you can control that, right? But I did.
Right. Yeah, we all do. Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, I screwed up this job. I'm a failure. So. Wow. Working through all that, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners can appreciate where I was coming from, I figured out how to make myself feel better, and I started teaching mindful self-compassion because I was in the first group of teachers that they trained in 2014. And then I took Rick Hanson's positive neuroplasticity training, because I was already rewiring my brain for happiness and resilience. I was already using his stuff, and then he decided to do a teacher training, so I took his stuff. And I just kept folding everybody's really good curriculum into the one curriculum that I had. So it became Mindful Methods for Life. And I've been helping people. So it's like a new late-in-life calling. I'm 57 years old. I never imagined I'd be teaching people how to handle their stress and live with less suffering and more ease. But that's what I'm doing.
Well, I think it's really, really cool. And just so you know, I actually asked my therapist about 2 weeks ago because I was in one of those moments where my teenagers and young adults were not looking like anything like I had put effort into. And he assured me that between the ages of 30 and 35, they start looking like you again. And
that's really funny.
So I'm like, yes, I've only got like another 15 years before we hit, my kids return to me. But not that I really want to wait 15 years. But
no, you don't. And so here's the thing, my dear. I've got a 23-year-old and a 23-year-old because they're identical twin girls, and a 27-year-old. And you someday figure out how to unhook your happiness from their actions, their activities, their everything. And when you learn how to unhook yourself from all of that, you can have a really happy day even when they're struggling and making bad decisions.
Well, that makes me feel so much better because I have a 19-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 23-year-old, and a 24-year-old. And I am looking forward to that day. I think I'm getting better at it, actually, where, what's helped me is remembering that I acted the exact same way when I was 22 and 23 years old. And I realized that the lessons are in those actions, and they need to do those stupid, silly things, bad decisions that they're doing,
Well, it depends. It depends on the severity of what you're talking about.
Of course, right. Of course.
Some of that, of course, is true. They're differentiating themselves from us as parents, and they're figuring out who they're not on the way to figuring out who they are.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
It's much easier to figure out who you're not once you try that on and you were like, that was a mistake.
Right. So we only have another minute. Can you tell us where you can find the book and what's on the website if we go to mindfulmethodsforlife.com?
Oh my gosh, my website is like just an absolute party of help and healing. So I highly recommend people go on my website, read the blogs, go to the books and resources, and see everybody else's books, all my teachers' books. There's tons of free newsletters on there that they can subscribe to that are from the best in the field. And my book they can get on Amazon and on Kindle. So
great. Great. So they can.
I just hope people keep breathing and start a gratitude and start a meditation and start all these things because they can get through it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to reach into the archives and bring out one of my favorite segments. So when we return, into the archives and jumping into one of my favorite segments.
Mom Talk Radio, a busy mom's best friend.
I want to encourage you as we go through the summer months to check out Mom TV. There you're going to find a whole bunch of videos, all produced by moms for moms, on subjects that are important to you, whether it's getting your child ready for, I hate to say this, back to school, or finding and discovering new products that will enhance your life and your child's life. You'll find them all there on Mom TV. And you may say, well, I'm already going to YouTube, but Mom TV, the moms who are creating those videos are making them just for you, with you in mind. So you don't have to go through and search for topics. It's all there, nicely organized right there on Mom Talk Radio. And feel free to, if you can't find a subject matter, you can tweet us at Mom TV or at Mom Talk Radio. We'll find the subject matter and the subject expert and get it there and get it done for you. So with that, we're excited to be talking with Sarah Walters from Grader's Ice Cream. We're talking about seasonal ice cream flavors, and there's plenty out this month for you to try. And then also July is National Ice Cream Month. So Sarah, welcome to Mom Talk Radio.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So peach is the seasonal flavor this month. You want to talk about why peach and what we can do with our peach ice cream?
Yeah, so this month's seasonal flavor at Grader's Ice Cream is peach. You can get it online. It's a really wonderful flavor, and the reason why we do it in June is we look for those fresh ingredients, and peaches are in season. It's obviously going to be a little more difficult to get peach if you're in other months, but definitely in June it's the perfect time. Now, we do look at bonus flavors all summer long. Those are some of our flavors that we're testing out to see what people think, if it's a new flavor that we can make seasonal. But there are some upcoming seasonal flavors that you can look forward to in addition to the seasonal peach in June. We actually have watermelon sorbet that's available July through August, a key lime pie ice cream, absolutely amazing. It's an ice cream base flavored with real key lime juice and crunchy graham cracker crust pieces, so it's really great ice cream. And then we have a Cones for the Cure flavor, which is Elena's blueberry pie, and that's in September.
So what makes Grader's ice cream so much better? I know it's been around for hundreds of years, many years, and it's a family business. So what makes the flavor different?
Well, that's right. So we are turning 147 years old this year. Our French pot process has been around since then. It's the original process that Louis Grader started with. And what it does is it produces 2.5 gallons of French pot ice cream. That's how small our batches are. So it's very artisanal. It's a small batch, and it really just makes for a great flavor. It doesn't have, it has a much better, deeper flavor than you would get from just your regular commodity ice cream that's going to put a lot of air into the product. So you have the French pot process that makes it super delicious, and it dates back over a century, and we're still doing it the same way, hand packing the ice cream in each pint.
And you're a brand, I know that I just discovered you in Florida at Whole Foods, but where can we go if we're not familiar with the brand and we want to try it? How do we find out where it's sold?
Sure. So the best place to find out the exact location that's closest to your home is to go to graders.com. It's actually spelled GRAETERS.com. You can plug in your address and it'll pull it up. But you can get it at the Fresh Market, Whole Foods. And just recently, we're now available in Walmart to make it even more convenient for folks down in the Florida area. And as we head into July and National Ice Cream Month, as I mentioned, we're going to be celebrating our 147th birthday. And we're going to continue to release those bonus flavors throughout August 21st. So a lot of great, exciting things happening on at Grader's. You can get some of our main flavors like Madagascar Vanilla, our signature Black Raspberry Chocolate Chip at Walmart, Fresh Market, and Whole Foods.
Right.
And you can also go online and get some of these amazing bonus and seasonal flavors.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And we have a link to Grader's Ice Cream on Mom Talk Radio. Thanks so much, Sarah, for joining us today on Mom Talk Radio. I want to remind you, everyone, that there's a lot of really great foods this summer coming out, whether it's ice cream, Tasty Lee tomatoes. If you're pregnant, you want to check out Mother Nurture and all of their wonderful infused water flavors. You can go to madebymothernurture.com. A lot of really great flavors in the air this summer, and we're going to add a little flavor to Mom Talk Radio as well as we bring you the best guests that we can find this summer as well. And there'll be flavors on your plate, flavors in your ear, and we're going to have a great summer here on Mom Talk Radio. Thanks, everyone, so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to talk to you again next week, this time, this place, wherever you listen and how you listen to Mom Talk Radio. We're glad you're here. Thanks, everyone, and see you next week.